Good morning, New Zealand. It is Monday morning, start of a new week, and this is Daybreak. It is Monday morning, and before I forget, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to our Family First channel on YouTube, and if you want, you can also get notifications as well, so you know when we are going live. So that's if you're watching on YouTube. Of course, you may be on Facebook and you already get the notifications. Just new thing. Actually, another new thing that we've got on our website, start of a new week, so I might as well tell you the breaking news, is that on our website now we're starting to include the scripts of, for example, McBlog, also Simon O'Connor's interviews on family matters. So if you prefer to read stuff rather than watch a video interview or a video commentary of McBlog, the script is there. So go to our website, click on the program and look down at the descriptor and you will see the full script of the conversation or the commentary, or maybe a summary of, for example, what I've covered on Daybreak today. So it's a new feature. It's kind of like for those who like to read, and to be honest, sometimes that's me. I read a conversation rather than watching it. But anyway, it's good that you're watching and good to have you here. Right, let's check out the news. Quite a bit of stuff just from the last couple of days because of obviously I wasn't here on Friday morning because of Matariki. So Dark Day in the UK. Look, they have just recently given the green light to abortion to full term. I tell you what, it's pretty dark days in the UK at the moment. The Parliament can't figure out life. It's, you know, the thief comes to steal, kill and destroy, and having a field day in the UK Parliament. The British House of Commons narrowly approved a euthanasia bill. A Catholic priest, John Howard, who led prayer and people in prayer outside Parliament, called the bill's passage a dark day for our country. Well, I'd say it's another dark day after the abortion bill. There was some tightening of the gap between those saying yes and those saying no, but it still got through. The British Health Secretary warned that the bill in its current form could lead to a chilling scenario in which the cash-strapped National Health Service could pressure terminally ill patients into an early death to save money. Well, that's the elephant in the room, and it's the same issue here in New Zealand. Euthanasia is fully funded. Palliative care is not. And Care Not Killing, a lobby group, said members of Parliament had under 10 hours to consider over 130 amendments to the bill, or less than 5 minutes per change. Of course, that same happened in New Zealand as well, with both the abortion and the euthanasia bill. Lots of amendments to try and fix it, but those on the death side just didn't want to do it and just voted against all of them. So the bill now proceeds to the Britain's upper chamber, which is the House of Lords. And so there's going to be months of further scrutiny. I do like the system in the UK because at least there's an upper house which holds the House of Commons accountable. We don't have that. We just have one parliament, and I think that's a problem with the system. Interesting commentary in the Australian over the weekend. It was a retired judge who helped a case in 2013, so 12 years ago, and it was giving the parents the authority to approve the prescription of puberty blockers. So this judge said back in 2013, yes, the child can go on puberty blockers. But he says the outcome would be different if today's medical evidence has been available. He said the medical evidence was the other way. In fact, did I have that quote? No. The medical evidence was the other way in his case, namely that the court could at least authorise that first step, because the medical evidence was, back in 2013, that there was no risk involved. But now that's quite different. And there's no dispute about that there are risks involved. Yep, the science is now quite evident that puberty blockers are not fully reversible. They do harm the young person. The myth around, well, you need to give them puberty blockers, otherwise they will commit suicide. That whole suicide trope has completely been destroyed because the mental illness remains even after affirming the gender confusion and even after the puberty blockers, cross-sex hormones, and mutilating the body. The child mutilation industry is what it should be called. So it's interesting that you've got a senior Australian judge in Australia coming out and saying that it was a bad week for the child mutilation industry last week, because also you had this case in the US Supreme Court where they backed the Tennessee state. Tennessee wanted to ban child mutilation, and US Supreme Court said, yes, you can. And that's going to have a flow-on effect to all the other states, mainly Democrat-led states. Republican-led states, not Democrats. Republican-led states who also want to ban it. So there's certainly progress in that area. Some polling came out last week in the Dominion Post, or the Post as they now call it in Wellington. They use freshwater polling, I think it's called. And there was a very interesting result, which might scare you a little bit. Let me just show you. It's the approvability ratings of politicians, and you'll never guess who had the best favourability of all the politicians. Yep, up the top there, plus 12. Jacinda Ardern. Chris Hipkins was at plus 4. Winston Peters minus 11. In other words, people were more unfavourable than favourable. And Christopher Luxon at minus 18. Oh boy, are we looking at Jacinda 2.0? We're going to talk about that on Straight Talk tonight at 8 o'clock, so you won't want to miss that discussion. Who's funding Inside Out and Rainbow Youth and the Burnett Foundation, the Grubby Burnett Foundation in schools? Well, here's a fundraiser where apparently it's sweating with pride. Boy, they certainly have an interesting use of the word pride. But if you want to know who's funding this radical agenda in schools, it's schools like this who are fundraising for the Burnett Foundation and Inside Out and Rainbow Youth to put radical gender theory and sexuality into schools. You might recognise some schools there: Diocesan School, Tawa College, Samuel Marsden Collegiate, Wellington East Girls. And then there's businesses: AA Insurance, NZTA, government funded. So your taxpayer money is going into that. Well, is it? No, it's people individually raising funds, but it's workers from that area. Maybe they should focus on getting rid of the speed humps that I have to go over all the time. BNZ, ASB, Contact Energy. So there we go. There's the woke companies. Actually, speaking of woke companies, here's an interesting one. We, in our woke up analysis, we figured out that farmers actually are not woke. It's a company that actually we gave a green light to and we're supporting, and that's probably because of the family background of farmers. There we go. What else? This was the story on Saturday morning. One News finally figured out that many New Zealand sex workers start as children. And they say, what's being done to stop it? Well, that's the problem. When you decriminalise or legalise something like prostitution, you normalise. And unfortunately, young people are being attracted into the industry because they think that it's okay. They're being exploited, and it means that young women, as well as older women, are being victims of sexual violence and being sexually exploited. We've actually done a report on this back in 2021, so it's no surprise. And it actually talks about the fact that the law isn't working, and it's overseen by the Prostitutes Collective, which One News rushed to for their report. The Prostitutes Collective actually don't help people out of the industry. They don't. Basically, the decriminalisation of prostitution was a boon for pimps and brothels. It basically legalised them. There's no inspections. The law isn't being enforced, and the law was supposed to be reviewed in 2018. Hasn't been done. So there is a problem, and we put out a media release over the weekend. The flawed law turns a blind eye to child prostitution. It's going to continue to be a problem until the politicians actually admit that they made a mistake. And interestingly, Georgina Beyer, who was one of the lead MPs on that issue, actually admitted that at a meeting at Hunter's Corner in Papatoetoe a couple of years ago, before she sadly passed away, that yes, they had made a mistake around that whole area. Here's an interesting sign. Pregnant choose life. I was reading in a email newsletter that I got that a senior police officer told the Grace for Life team in Hamilton, they went out with this sign just to raise awareness about the dignity of the unborn child. And it features this child, an unborn baby at 20 weeks gestation. And they were encouraging pregnant women to choose life. So they weren't in a safe area. They weren't hanging outside an abortion clinic. That law that takes away freedom of speech. But they were threatened with arrest for the crime of offensive behaviour. In other words, somebody might get upset. Now, the Ethos Alliance, you may not have heard of them, but they're a wonderful organisation that has been set up to help deal with situations like this, legal situations like this. They got involved to challenge the police's approach, and police have acknowledged that they were wrong. The police were wrong. They have apologised to Grace for Life and agreed to ensure police officers correctly understand the law. So, good result, and credit to the Ethos Alliance for coming alongside and supporting that group. And you can find out more about the Ethos Alliance, ethosalliance.nz. More kickback against Pride. Here's the latest one. NASCAR. Their spiritual leader, Kyle Book, however you say it, he has announced a boycott of the NASCAR Pride Night. On the track, the focus should be on the car, not on the woke. So there we are, some more pushback against all of that. Here's my claim to fame. Last week, I was in Mount Maunganui, which you can see in the background, and I ran into none other than Adi Savia. So wanted to definitely just thank him for his stance. Had a chuckle with him about the fact that even when he is doing a post-match interview with the mainstream media, the sports interviewer, he still manages to share his faith. And so just honoured and thanked him for making that stance and for sharing his faith wherever, whenever, even if he gets some pushback, he wasn't afraid of that. So a great guy. Breaking news from the BBC, they have finally figured out that only women can get pregnant, or at least one of their announcers has. Here's a little clip for you to watch and have a laugh at this morning.
It's going to be a lovely day for lots of people.
Sam Harrison in Hampstead Heath. London School of Hygiene and Tropical Medicine has released research which says that nearly 600 heat-related deaths are expected in the UK. Malcolm Mystery, who is involved in the research, says that the aged, pregnant people, women, and those with pre-existing health conditions need to take precautions.
Classic. So a BBC presenter has finally figured out that only women can get pregnant, and J.K. Rowling actually tweeted this out and said, this is my new favourite BBC presenter. Now, if you haven't got the Jacinda Ardern book yet, there is some endorsement that might get you over the line, persuade you to read the book, and it's from none other than Dylan Mulvaney. Remember Dylan Mulvaney, a dude who thinks he's a woman and caused Bud Light's shares to go through the floor as he celebrated 365 days of womanhood. He celebrated 365 days of womanhood. Anyway, he's figured out that he now wants to read Jacinda Ardern's book.
Turner type, but then a book unexpectedly fell into my lap, and so I'm going to go with something different, specifically a different kind of power by Jacinda Ardern. And Jacinda is the former Prime Minister of New Zealand. She was the world's youngest female head of government, and she's the second person to give birth while in office. And this is her memoir. And I found myself so inspired by her desire to lead with empathy and kindness, because I struggle to believe that that's possible. And this book gave me a lot of hope during a time when it feels easy to give up. I think it's going to knock your socks off, which is good because it's summer and you shouldn't have been wearing socks.
Okay, that's enough of that. Anyway, I don't know. Does that endorsement get you over the line and make you want to read the book? Check it out. Anyway, over the weekend, you may have also seen there's this case about a very sad case about a Georgia woman in the US who was pregnant, 9 weeks pregnant, and then basically suffered a stroke or a brain bleed, and was being kept on life support so that her baby could be born. And the media, of course, were shouting abortion. They were saying, you know, it's because of Georgia's abortion laws that they're not allowed to kill the unborn child as well. And it's interesting because the baby has now been born. And so the New Zealand Herald over the weekend said brain dead woman kept alive because of abortion laws gives birth in Georgia. Now, you would think they would be celebrating that, but no, the whole focus is on the fact that it's anti-abortion, Georgia is a pro-life state, Trump bad man, all that type of stuff. But the interesting thing is, and as you'll see in the title of the blog that I'm going to release later today, the media shouted abortion, but nobody asked the mum. And I've unearthed a fascinating video with the grandmother of the new baby. It's very pro-life, despite what the media are telling you. So watch out for that. That'll be dropping later today. McBlog, the media shouts abortion, but nobody asks the mum. Speaking of which, tonight we'll be discussing a number of issues. Alfred, Sue, Ate, and we've got a guest panelist tonight, Nathan Sauli from the Free Speech Union. So make sure that you join us tonight at 8 o'clock for Straight Talk. That is live. Now, I did see a couple of funny comments come through. Somebody, when they saw the video of me, picture of me with Artie, they said, "Who's that guy next to Artie?" Artie doesn't know either. Some extremist. The police don't understand the law about that sign. Well, they do now, and that's a good thing about Ethos Alliance has told them exactly what they need to do in terms of the law. Unfortunately, I can't find the comments on Facebook. Never mind. Nice to have your comments. Now, don't forget, like this video, subscribe to our channel, and if you want to be alerted when we go live, then click the notifications button. We want to get as many people as possible on our YouTube channels and also on our website. Don't forget, written summaries of our shows. So if you want to find out what we've talked about today, go to our website, look up this program once we post it, and you can see a summary of all the topics that we've discussed. All right, I am out of time. Simon will be here tomorrow morning at 7:30 for Solid Ground. Until then, you have a great Monday.